Hey, what's up YouTube fam? Welcome back to our channel. You know we always bring you the most mind-blowing stories from around the world, and today is no different. Hurricane Idalia, now an extremely dangerous Category 3 storm ahead of historic landfall, catastrophic impacts. It was reported by the National Hurricane Center that Hurricane Idalia made landfall in Florida's Big Bend near Keaton Beach just before 8 a.m. Eastern Time as a Category 3 hurricane after being downgraded from a Category 4 earlier. The maximum sustained winds of the hurricane were 125 miles per hour, with higher gusts around the time it made landfall. Big waves and strong winds resulting from the hurricane are already battering Florida's Gulf Coast, leading to several areas being flooded and people being evacuated. The storm surge from the powerful storm could stretch about 200 miles along Florida's west coast, past the Tampa Bay area, and the state's Big Bend area could get 12 to 16 feet of storm surge. Because of wind damage, some locations may be uninhabitable for several weeks or months. What's even more terrifying is that the Category 3 hurricane is capable of causing devastating damage to well-built framed homes, according to the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. It can produce wind speeds of 111 to 129 miles per hour, leading to major damage to extensive areas, including more parts of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. The amount of damage has the potential to be catastrophic, so in this video, we'll be discussing all the important information you need to know about Hurricane Idalia. Ukrainian drones attack Russian airport in large-scale raids on 6 regions. It all began on that fateful day when Ukrainian drones took to the skies, targeting multiple regions deep within Russian territory. With surgical precision, they launched a devastating attack on a strategic airport, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Flames engulfed the airfield as military transport planes went up in smoke, their wreckage a stark reminder of the brutal reality of war. Russian officials were left stunned by the audacity of such an operation. They reported multiple drone strikes in various regions, including Pskov, Bryansk, Kaluga, Orlov, Ryazan, and the outskirts of Moscow. It was clear that Ukraine had raised the stakes, launching one of the most extensive drone attacks since the full-scale invasion by Russia last year. But how did they manage to penetrate so deep into enemy territory? The Russian Foreign Ministry wasted no time in pointing fingers, claiming that Western assistance was to blame for the far-reaching impact of the attacks. The scale and precision of the strikes led them to believe that Ukraine could not have accomplished this feat alone. As tensions escalate on the international stage, questions arise about the true extent of global involvement in this ongoing conflict. But the Ukrainian drones didn't stop at the Russian border, they dealt a heavy blow to Russia's capital itself. In a daring act of retaliation, Russia unleashed its own missile and drone attack on Kiev, resulting in a devastating loss of life. The Ukrainian air defense stood strong, intercepting over 20 enemy missiles and drones. However, the casualties and destruction served as a sobering reminder of the price both sides are paying in this relentless battle. Amidst the chaos, it is clear that Ukraine had a powerful motive for these audacious drone attacks. Not only did they manage to boost morale among their own troops, but they also sent a strong message to the Russian public. By breaching their defenses and targeting key locations, Ukraine challenged the notion of President Putin's ability to protect his own people. Will this bold move ultimately shift the balance of power? As the conflict rages on, both Ukraine and Russia find themselves caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. The drone attacks have intensified the already volatile situation and raised the stakes higher than ever before. With innocent lives hanging in the balance, can these nations find a path towards peace, or are they destined to endure the brutal consequences of this war? military officers in Gabon declare coup and place president under house arrest. According to the coup leaders, all the institutions of the republic have been dissolved, the election results have been cancelled, and the borders are closed. The coup leaders stated that the country is going through a serious institutional, political, economic, and social crisis. They claimed that the elections did not meet the conditions for a transparent, credible, and inclusive ballot much hoped for by the people of Gabon. The Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, on behalf of the people of Gabon and as guarantors of the institution's protection, has decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. General Brice Oligui Nguema, head of the Republican Guard, has been carried in triumph by hundreds of soldiers to cries of Oligui President. Bongo's son and close advisor Nureddin Bongo Valentine, his chief of staff Ian Ghislaine Gulu, as well as his deputy, 2 other presidential advisors, and the 2 top officials in the ruling Gabonese Democratic Party, PDG, have been arrested for treason, embezzlement, corruption, and falsifying the president's signature, among other allegations. Gabon is a country of just 2.3 million people that has been ruled by the Bongo family for more than 55 years out of its 63 years since independence from France in 1960. This isn't the first time Gabon's presidential elections were disputed. Gabon's 2016 presidential elections were marked by deadly violence after Bongo was named the winner, edging out rival Jean Ping by just 5,500 votes, according to the official tally. The curfew was imposed, and the internet was shut down nationwide at the weekend. The internet was restored on Wednesday morning after the coup leader's address. We will be shedding light on an incident that occurred in Nigeria, where over 60 individuals were detained for celebrating a same-sex wedding. This event is one of the largest mass arrests targeting homosexuality in the country, and it has sparked a heated debate about human rights and equality. Before we jump into the details, let's understand the context. Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, has a law called the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act, which criminalizes homosexuality. Under this law, gay individuals can face up to 14 years in prison, while their accomplices could be sentenced to 10 years. The law was enacted in 2013 and has faced both local and international condemnation, but it also has its fair share of supporters within Nigeria. Now, let's dive into the shocking arrests. On a fateful day in southern Delta State's Ekpan town, the police took it upon themselves to detain over 60 people who were attending a gay wedding celebration. The arrests took place at 2 a.m., and the event had already united 2 individuals in a same-sex marriage. This mass arrest highlights the intolerance and discrimination faced by the LGBTQ+ community in Nigeria. Homophobia runs deep in Nigerian society. The police spokesman, in justifying the arrests, stated that homosexuality will never be tolerated in Nigeria. But it's important to remember that homosexuality is not a crime. These arrests serve as a painful reminder of the human rights violations and the constant struggle faced by LGBTQ+ individuals in Nigeria. The international community and human rights organizations, such as Amnesty International, have strongly condemned the arrests. Amnesty International's Nigeria office called for an immediate end to this witch hunt and highlighted how this law is being used for harassment, extortion, and blackmail. It's time for Nigeria to reassess its stance and work towards inclusivity and equality for all. SpaceX Crew 7 stellar start, adjusting to zero gravity and learning how to use a space toilet. The Crew 7 mission arrived at the International Space Station, and the new members are getting ready to conduct their activities during the next 6 months in microgravity. On board the SpaceX Dragon Endurance spacecraft are NASA astronaut Jasmine Mobley, ESA astronaut Andreas Mogensen, JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Konstantin Borisov. Aboard the International Space Station, Jasmine Mobley, ESA astronaut Andreas Mogensen, JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Konstantin Borisov are getting adapted to life in microgravity. It's not an easy task for a first-timer, as the lack of gravity can be disorienting at first. That's one of the many reasons why it's important to get used to being weightless. Over time, the crew adapts and learns to maneuver and conduct their activities efficiently in the space station. Getting familiar with space toilets. Things that we take for granted on Earth, or think are easy, are often much more complicated in space. One example is how to use the bathroom. Toilets on the ISS are not your average toilets, and astronauts must understand how to operate them properly. The toilet on the ISS is a vacuum toilet, and instead of flushing, they use airflow to move waste into a holding tank before it gets disposed of. NASA astronaut and Crew 7 commander, Jasmine Mobley, shares the useful tips she learned on this mission. Food and drinks in space. Now, let's talk about one of the most enjoyable parts of astronaut life: food and drinks. In space, everything must be sealed and packaged individually to limit the mess. Most of the food has to be heated up to eat, and there's no running water, so everything has to be consumed with the help of a straw. However, even a small drop of water can float away and potentially damage the delicate electronic equipment on board, so all fluids must be consumed with care. Research and hobbies. Life isn't all about work on the station, though. The Crew 7 crew are working on exciting research that will help scientists better understand how our bodies react in space. In their free time, they enjoy playing musical instruments, watching movies, and chatting with family and friends on Earth, just like we do. It's important to enjoy the little things in space, and the crew is doing just that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. Don't forget to leave your comment.